Well, welcome, everybody. My name is Haley Hathaway, and I am the administrative coordinator for New Mexico and El Paso region's Interfaith Power and Light. And we're really grateful to have you all here for a conversation and information sharing about these really incredible new opportunities that are available to houses of worship in our state and our region, thanks to new legislation on the federal level. We're also going to talk a little bit about what our Cool Congregations program is about here in New Mexico, and go over, thanks Tiffany, talk a little bit about both what resources are available for congregations, but then also individuals. Really grateful to have Tiffany here from the national office, the Interfaith Power and Light's national office. She's their chief strategy officer, calling in from Tennessee. Tiffany brings many years of experience working on these important issues and works to connect the federal policy with the IPL state affiliates. We're also joined by Jean Shaw, who's going to share about the Department of Energy Efficiency Grant on behalf of Tierra del Sol. She was one of the grant writers. And then our board member and volunteer, Bruce Hun, who's an engineer and an expert in building and energy analysis, to share a little bit more about what our program does and how we can support you and your work in your faith communities. I think I would love if just folks would come off the mic and share where they're from and their faith community, and where they're at right now. Other than working for IPL, I also go to Albuquerque Quaker meeting, and I'm in Albuquerque.
I guess as the other person who does some work for IPL, Carlos Navarro. I do the media and social media for our New Mexico, El Paso IPL, and I am Roman Catholic. I go to St. John the 23rd Catholic Community.
Well, I guess Haley's already introduced me, Bruce Hun. My faith community is St. Francis Episcopal Church in Rio Rancho, where Mother Jean is one of our clergy persons, Jean Campbell. And I've been here about 5 years, having moved from Raleigh, North Carolina. I have more to say about that later.
And I'm Jean Campbell from St. Francis, and Bruce and I have worked together now for about, I don't know what, well, ever since he came to St. Francis, but the last sort of 12 months, we've been working on solar for St. Francis. And we do have a contract with Positive Energy Solar. It is in the engineering has been done, and it's now sitting with P&M, waiting for that authorization. So we've moved ahead, and we've sort of stepped out in faith, and the congregation has been very generous, but we're looking for a little bit of that reduction money, that if it would be nice to have some of it supplemented. But I think we're a community, and with Bruce's leadership, tremendously committed to issues of conservation and creation care. So it's been a fun journey. We've been funded by New Mexico Interfaith Power and Light with a loan at one point to redo the lighting in our parking lot and lighting in the building. So we've done a reduction of the use of electricity there as well. So I think we're putting in what, 10 kilowatt, megawatt, kilowatt, whatever.
Kilowatt.
Kilowatt.
More than that.
Megawatts.
Well, I think it's more like 30 or so.
Oh, okay.
That's exciting.
It's a big one.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'll
And
share. As Haley introduced me, I'm Tiffany Hartung with Interfaith Power and Light, and I am sitting on the Cumberland Plateau in Tennessee. Excited to join you all, and it's so fun to hear about the work you're doing.
I can share. I'm Bonnie Pavolny, and I'm at Upaya Zen Center in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And we're currently installing solar on a rebuild that we're in the process of through Positive Energy Solar, but we wanted to, or Energy Positive, but we wanted to find out other options and possibilities for us. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Bonnie.
I'm Carmen Retzloff, and I'm sitting in my car because in Taos, in Talpa, New Mexico, near Taos, and because we have our food pantry distribution today, and my faith community is El Pueblito United Methodist Church in El Prado, which is on the other side of Taos, and we we're one of the big food distribution agencies in Taos County, and today we gave out about probably somewhere north of 450 boxes of food, and let's see, I'm a Lutheran pastor serving at a Methodist church. I've been here since July. I've worked with New Mexico Interfaith Power and Light when I was in Albuquerque with Community Vita, which was a Lutheran Presbyterian church in the South Valley. And we worked a little bit with Cool Congregations, and applied with the Mountain Sky Conference of the United Methodist Church in Colorado on their DOE application, and then have been bounced to back to New Mexico. So not sure what's going on there, but still being hopeful, and really excited, hoping to do some energy efficient windows and lighting especially, and we're very interested in solar, and that's why I joined the call, and
Thanks,
I'm glad to
Carmen.
be here. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Bill Bright in Gallup. I'm a member of the Baha'i Faith. We don't have a large enough congregation to have a building of our own. We meet in each other's homes. But I think all of the members are very aware and conscious and taking steps to conserve energy, in their personal life, in their homes, and their work.
Thanks, Bill. Tiffany's going to share too a little bit about some of the individual opportunities there are. So that sounds like that would be applicable. And Michael, if you are, you're welcome to share. I know you came on a little bit late. We're just doing introductions for part of a faith community and where we're located.
I'm Michael McDonald. I'm in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the First Unitarian Church. And I just saw the thing come up on our Interfaith Power and Light email. We have a big solar system. I kind of looked into this program, and I wasn't sure that it would apply to us but I was just kind of curious for future reference.
Great, thanks for coming, Mike. I live around the corner, and I always am inspired by your gardens, and I'm trying to do some native landscaping at my house. So I'm like, if they can do it just around the block, then I can do it in my front yard.
It was a long work in progress.
It's beautiful. And then Jean, we're gonna have a chance to talk later, but you're welcome to come on and just share if you like.
Sure. I represent Terradale Soul Housing Corporation. I'm their technical assistance provider. I think jack of all trades kind of person. So, you know how it is with life at nonprofits. You get to wear a lot of hats. I'm located in Tucson.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on, everybody. And I think I'll pass it over to Tiffany.
Really, it was I really enjoyed hearing about all the work y'all are doing, and thank you for doing that work. So I was just gonna start by saying what you all already know is that people of faith have been, and which are demonstrating, are responding to the moral call to care for our earth and our neighbors, and the most vulnerable among us by reducing our carbon emissions in worship facilities and in our individual lives. And in doing this, we're all helping to live out our values and creating a more just world. There's been it was really great to hear your examples and lots of great examples of all around the country that I hear, and folks like you who are also trying to understand all these incentives and how do they apply, and working through all these details. And so, and today for the slides, the parts that I have, I'm going to try to walk us through some of the new federal resources that have come down from recent legislation, specifically the Inflation Reduction Act, and which I will refer to here on out as IRA, and then also the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which I'll just call the Infrastructure Bill. And I note that I have a bunch of sort of high level, we're at the IPL National Office, we're sort of been scrambling to try to understand what's coming and track all of this stuff, and relying on a lot of other partners. And our team's doing a great job on that, but there was a lot, which is exciting in this bill, but there's a lot. And so I will share some high level info and a lot of resources, and to try to help you learn about, point you in the right direction. I might not be able to answer all the detailed specific questions, but I hope I can point you to a place or a resource that you can hopefully get an answer. I also want to disclose that I'm not a tax attorney, and as a standard disclosures go. This really appreciate, this is, our opportunity to help bring about climate justice based values and live out our values. And as you know, I don't need to tell you all that a big part of the solution to the climate crisis is doing two things. It's getting all of the carbon out of our electricity, and then electrifying all the things that we can. So cars, trucks, trains, our water heating, our electricity sources, our lighting, space heating sources, and our stoves. So just a high level on IRA. So it was signed into law, this historic bill, in 2022. Thank you all who helped work hard to pass this. I know that many of you did, so thank you for that. And IPL Network and our partners celebrated this historic victory as a result of years of work trying to get us to this point. So this is, I've heard it described as the sort of the climate New Deal. It is on the scale of, retooling our country that like the New Deal was. And so this law is, so it puts our country, if implemented thoroughly and not rolled back, and we all do our part to implement it, it will put our country on the path to reduce greenhouse gas emissions up to 44% by 2030. So that's not fully where we need to go as a country, but it's a big chunk of where we need to get to go. And so this is just a high level list of some of the things that were included in IRA, but IRA's success is and its effectiveness in really driving down those emissions and getting us to a big part of the way we need to go hinges on consumers, houses of worship, businesses, and all of us hearing about and seizing these opportunities and the incentives and the rebates and utilizing them to help move our country towards a lower emission place. And so another ask I have for y'all is to also share this information with your congregants and within your community and beyond to help. I know you all thinking about the food pantry, and I think the 400 boxes that Carmen mentioned, that you all are rooted in your communities and have a reach in your communities. And so helping us get this word out to folks who are not sort of just keyed into climate and solar the way that we all are, and particularly for folks who are perhaps have who are really some of these resources, particularly low income folks who can really are aimed and designed to help them and may not be, have the time to think about this. So the infrastructure bill, this was passed a couple of years ago, bipartisan infrastructure bill. And while this was not specifically a climate bill, it was primarily focused on things like roads, bridges, ports, airports. It did include a couple of IPL priorities. And then for the purposes of today's discussion, the biggest thing we want to note on this is that included the creation of a new grant program at the Department of Energy to support nonprofits. That's what Jean's going to talk about here later. And that nonprofit pilot program includes faith communities and supporting them in doing energy efficiency work. There are also additional grant programs to support environmental justice communities that were funded through this bill, and to support pollution reduction, address coastal resilience, not an issue for you all, I think, but a number of other things that you'll see in a spreadsheet that I'll share later in the presentation. So IRA, some of the highlights of IRA for houses of worship. So it's exciting opportunity for those of you already underway or thinking about doing this work, and included a number of benefits. The big one is that it basically puts wind, solar, batteries, geothermal, heat pumps, and about a dozen other climate solutions on sale at a 30% rate. So that's what I heard. I think I heard somebody mention that. And those are sort of through a tax credit process, but the reason why it's a big deal for us is that for the first time, nonprofit organizations are able to get that tax credit, whereas not being a non-taxable entity, haven't been able to sort of benefit from that. And that's called direct pay. You'll also hear it referred to, the IRS calls it elective pay, but the program is sort of direct pay. So if you hear those terms, I'll try to call it direct pay, but if you hear or see those terms, know that's the same thing. It also makes it makes a lot of those previously out of reach tax credits available. I'm going to drop a couple of links in the chat and for you, and then I'll share these slides, these with Haley afterwards, so you have access to these, because they'll probably be a lot. So the IRS elective pay website, and then we did a webinar with DOE back in July, where some of you probably joined, and we had DOE, and there was 100 questions for them, very many on this topic, because this is a lot of detail on this, and so we took those questions and we sent them to DOE, our DOE presenters, and asked them to answer them for us. And so that's where this FAQ comes from. I think it's a pretty helpful resource. The next thing here, so tax code, this is a lot on the slide, I'm sorry. Just wanted to flag here, there's sort of two main types of incentives under the tax code that I think you all will be interested in. So the one on the right is direct pay that I mentioned, and that's what allows tax exempt entities to get what would normally be a tax credit. And you can see the list of things that can qualify there. The one on the left, IRS code 179D, and let's call it 179D, it's not direct for nonprofits, but what it does is it allows a tax exempt entity to allocate your tax deduction that you would get to a builder or a solar installer, and then you can negotiate with them to help lower the cost of what they provide, of the work that they do. And a couple of things, one thing to note on the 179D is that it covers a lot of the same things as direct pay, and you can use both of these things in some cases. So I think keep that in mind. But the one thing that there was a lot of questions around heat pumps, and that note that the direct pay only covers eligible for ground source heat pumps are only eligible under direct pay. Air source heat pumps are not. But under 179D, air source heat pumps are eligible there. So an important distinction within the fun heat pump topic that's out there. More on direct pay. I think I've dropped some of those links already. I also want to point you to New Mexico IPL. Haley did a really great fact sheet that I think is more helpful and specific to New Mexico. I dropped that in the chat. The eligibility, a lot of questions on tax exempt organizations, and recognizing that many houses of worship are not 501c3 registered with the IRS, and you can see here what, and you see in the FAQ that DOE provide, or the IRS, DOE and IRS sort of provide some guidance there that you do not need to meet the requirements of a 501c to be considered tax exempt. So look into that. Don't consider yourself automatically excluded there. The other thing, just to note on the claiming of the elective pay, there is a pre-filing registration with the IRS that you need to do. So as you're beginning that work, you'll want to, I think that's when you want to begin that process. And as I understand it, that's just an IRS thing. They don't want you to try to claim it at the last minute. And then the other thing to note is that the payment happens after the project's completed. So I know a factor in thinking about as you're fundraising and trying to sort of put the finances together for that, that is something to keep in mind. Additional renewable resources. So lots of programs and tax credits for faith communities. We've got this, I think this link I'm dropping in the chat links to a spreadsheet where there's different tabs for the different types of categories. So renewables, energy efficiency. There's also some, energy community bonus credit. So folks, this is the way it's specifically designed in the bill to help communities that were former energy communities, coal mining, oil, gas, helping those communities transition, and then also helping those frontline communities, environmental justice communities, ensuring that they're helping to level the playing field there. So there are some additional bonuses to help focus these projects in those areas. And then also just a note that there are also additional incentives. So just that for communities that have been historically overlooked. And so as you're thinking about, some of that is in the spreadsheet, and there's maps that I think Haley had a link in a map in her document, but there are maps. And so if your house of worship is located in a community that, we're adding EV chargers could help also, like there's a shortage of EV chargers in your community, it's a low income, historically overlooked community, and this would be beneficial in supporting the community. There's also additional like bonuses you can add to that and incentives. So energy efficiency resources for houses of worship. So this is the program Jean will talk about here in a little bit. This is the Department of Energy Efficiency Materials pilot program, also called Renew America. That was part of the infrastructure bill. And so this was a pilot program to make competitive grants to install energy efficiency materials in nonprofit buildings up to $200,000 per grant. So Tierra del Sol Housing Corporation was one of there was like 5 or 6 grant recipients picked to administer this program. And so Jean will talk about that. And one other thing I want to drop in the chat, which I should have shared earlier, sorry, is we have a draft, when I was talking about heat pumps, a draft FAQ on heat pumps, similar to what we did. We had DOE present on our Holy Heat Pumps webinar last week or 2 weeks ago, and we had lots of heat pump questions, lots of technical questions, and so we're asking DOE to answer those questions for us. And so this is not yet finalized. There's still, I think, a couple of outstanding questions, but I know this is valuable information, so I wanted to share it. And just one note on that Renew America program, it's a pilot program, and so it is, I think it's 50 million over 5 years. And so it's a one-time, it's a pilot. It's not sort of a regular program. And so we will be working with partners to sort of go back to Congress and demonstrate, look at all the good it did, please continue to fund this program. On electric vehicles, I think this is actually a New Mexico picture. Does any of you recognize it? I feel like this is one maybe Jean shared. No, I'm sorry, Joan. No, I'm sorry. I think it might be Arkansas. Sorry. So anyway, on electric vehicle charging stations and fleets, there's up to 30% tax credit for EV charging stations, and this is one particularly 30% credit in low-income communities. So if your house of worship is in an underserved community, low-income community, additional incentive there. There's also, if those of your congregations who have fleets, I don't know how big many of you are, but if you have a fleet, there is a commercial vehicle credit for electric vans, trucks, cars. And those of you with schools, there's a clean school bus program that could cover up to 100% of the replacement cost for schools or for electric zero emission school buses. And for that one, there's priority given to rural and low income communities. And then there's also additional vehicle related credits from different states and utility companies that might also be worth looking in. So you can sort of stack those benefits, and that would be, you know, specific to New Mexico and your utilities. So the clean energy investment tax credit can be used for renewable energy and storage. Just a note that as many of our houses of worship are serving as climate resiliency hubs these days, and in this increasingly extreme weather climate, that's something to keep in mind. There is the Grid Resilience and Innovation Program is funding state and local governments. So for tracking what the IRA funds that are coming down to the state level, and the states are developing programs to administer those funds and look at how that works. It's worth keeping an eye on whatever, probably like your state energy agency or department, and how they're developing those programs. I also, it may be too late, but it's worth, if you're not already, and probably New Mexico IPL is, but being a part of that development process and engaged with the state as they're developing it to ensure that it is, they have a voice for our unique constituency and understanding of the needs that you all have. Let's see, and I'm going to drop a bunch of resources in the chat here. Some are included, and just a few things. This last one I dropped, our federal resources page, is a good one to bookmark, and we'll continue to update that as new resources are available. I also share that IPL recently, just last week, updated our congregational solar webpage, and so there's more resources there. And the new pages on that, there's new pages on that. They're specific to financing solar, and then one about finding a solar installer. Sounds like there's a local installer that many of you work with, so you might not need that. Also, we'll share more recordings of previous webinars that we've done with DOE and with partners, and we'll continue to do those. And then the last thing I'll share on this page is just that, you know, again, encouraging you to track what New Mexico's doing, as well as what your local other incentives your local utilities have. So stacking those federal, state, and local programs that best fit together for the work you need and make it work best for you. I think a lot of you are well underway in preparing to do this work or already have done some of this work. But as these program details are still coming together and being rolled out, there's a couple of things, some things you can do to help prepare. The first is making that plan to take a snapshot, or making a plan and taking a snapshot of your facility's energy use before you make those plans, so that you can benchmark and track that. And some of these grant programs will have that ask, so something you want to prepare. And then so then you can also measure your progress with your and demonstrate that to your congregation's leadership and members. It's also an important thing to do to help them, if they're not already convinced, to be on this journey with you, but that might also help convince them to supporting and financing the plan. And just a note that the road to zero emissions, whatever the goal is, can take several years. And so keeping up your enthusiasm with your congregation is, and providing updates is something that's helpful. And when you're thinking about benchmarking your buildings, lining up to 12 months of those utility bills, and then finding out the construction date for your building, and then also tracking occupancy rates. Are folks only in the buildings 2 days a week, or is it every day a week? That also helps. And then you can use IPL's Cool Congregations resources to help you prepare. I think I shared that link. We have our Cool Congregation Calculator, which is a tool to help do that. Energy Star EPA also has a Energy Star portfolio manager. I'll drop that link. Here is the Cool Congregation ones. Sorry, that's not the EPA one, but I'll find that. But the Energy Star EPA workbook, they have a tool that is also their portfolio manager that's similar to IPL's Cool Congregations Calculator, but it's a bit more sophisticated and requires more input and more detail. And so you may be able to just use the Cool Congregations Calculator as an easier version. And then one more link for when thinking about what other resources at the state level might be available. Here is a link that sort of helps to track some of those state, local, and utility resources. But I'm guessing you all are pretty keyed into that. Certainly New Mexico IPL folks are. And then another tip on that is researching your own denomination's sources of funding for building improvements. So for example, the United Church of Christ Cornerstone Fund serves all congregations, even if they're not UCC. So, looking into what your denomination might offer, but then keeping an eye out, and we're trying to track other denominational programs like that, or lenders that also offer funding outside of, not just to their denomination. And then the last thing I have to say on this slide is that, we a plug to if you're utilizing these federal funding to help share your story with us. We have a form here that I just dropped in the link that if you could fill it out if you're utilizing that. And as we're seeing, these Congress right now is beginning to attack some of this IRA funding and try to roll back these programs. We expect those attacks to continue. And as I mentioned earlier, we want to go back to Congress to renew that Renew America program, to continue it, to make it a permanent program. Having these stories of the important work that y'all are doing in your communities is really helpful for us to tell to Congress, to tell to the media, to show these programs are really making a difference in communities. This is what it looks like. Here are the savings Here's how these congregations are in turn supporting their communities, and in not just in modeling these solutions, but during extreme weather, during the extreme heat or other extreme weather, the support that you all do. And so we're trying to track this so that we can lift those stories up in the media with our members of Congress and our other elected officials and decision makers, to show how popular and how effective these are and how impactful, but also lift them up to inspire other congregations to follow in your footsteps, because as all of you who've started this work will know, it's not quick work. It is it's a long slog. It's important work, but it's not quick and easy work. So and sometimes you will be in. I've heard some really innovative stories about the work they're doing, but inspiring. Just a note on the Cool Congregations work. So IPL offers a startup guide, and Bruce probably knows all this, and we'll share about Cool Congregations in a moment. But we offer a startup guide, and if you have a team of people at your congregation who can take on this work, you can download this handy guide. It has some advice in starting up a green team. And here is the calculator that I mentioned earlier, and the link. So this is just a screenshot of what it looks like. And another plug, IPL's Cool Congregations Challenge is open right now. December 15th is the deadline to apply. So those of you already doing this work, would love to see your submissions to lift them up. Plus there's also a chance to win some cash.
Can I add something to that, Tiffany? When I saw the notification about the Cool Congregations contest, the challenge, I noticed that it's for the last couple of years because of COVID. So for your congregations that have done projects, is it 2021?
I think that's right.
So don't just think, oh, we haven't really done very much this year, but if you've done anything in the last couple of years, this is a really great opportunity to showcase your work and maybe get a little bit of money for your congregation. And there are a couple of different categories. In that email that I sent, I shared the different categories. So that includes kind of some of the energy efficiency, but yeah, check out the different categories and see if you can apply, and let us know if you need help with that too. Thanks.
Would love to have you apply. So I'll turn it over to Jean to talk about the Renew America grant.
Oh, thank you so much. And that was great information. I learned so much. So I'm here to just tell you, I know you're also focused on solar, but I'm here to talk about the DOE Energy Efficiency Improvements for Nonprofits grant that Terra del Sol was awarded recently. And we are still in the initial stages of getting that grant agreement in place. They're providing several webinars and trainings, and there's a lot of grant management steps that we are implementing right